All right, guys, we are live. This is UFC Austin recap show being brought to you by sherdog.com. I am your host, Keith Shillan. Before I introduce my co-host, I want to apologize to everybody who went to the first link. I don't know what I did, guys. I fucked something up. In fairness, guys, I've only done this show probably about 200 times, so it's still kind of new to me. This technology, I don't know, something. My computer froze, and I think I hit live, and then hit it again, and I don't know. I think I finally see it. It took me about 300 episodes or whatever, but I finally seen Ben get mad at me. He wanted to jump through the screen and freaking knee me in the face. So you're on mute. There you go.
We got called boomers in the comments. You know what?
That's true.
Don't let the gray hair fool you. I am squarely Gen X, but that doesn't mean that I shouldn't know how to operate a computer. And as you can see, I just failed to unmute my mic. So our apologies for the additional 5-minute delay. Just a few more minutes, and Carrie Hatley would have, finally proclaimed our podcast done. Sorry, Carrie.
All right, so we got I think we had 12 fights to talk about. A lot of action. I mean, it was really action packed. So we'll get to that. Before we do, I want to say something. One thing that happens a lot, I don't want to say a lot, but on occasion, a lot of times people will donate money to our show, and they enjoy that. Obviously, we both always appreciate that. I want to do something different though. If you enjoy our show and you want to give a tip or something, don't do that. Do this instead. Tonight, ESPN, the UFC, they obviously during the entire broadcast, they were talking about the Jimmy V Foundation, which is obviously a great organization to help defeat cancer. Instead of giving us a tip tonight, go donate to them instead. Donate to the Jimmy V Foundation. I know we all have people in our lives who've battled cancer, so yeah, do that. That'd be good. We were in Austin, Texas. All right.
I love that of the two of us, the one that owns a cowboy hat is not the one that lives 2.5 hours from Austin, but the one that lives in Rhode Island.
Yeah, and for those who don't know the why the cowboy hat, I was at a Luke Combs concert and it was absolutely downpouring, and this is what happens when you wear a cowboy hat that you got at like a freaking flea market. This is what happens when you get it wet. Austin, now please forgive me. I know you've answered me questions about Texas about 1 million times when I've asked you geography. How far is Austin from Houston?
2.5, 3 hours. Like I would have gone. I normally go to every UFC show in Texas. Just this wasn't a good week for me to be there all week. I just had like too much stuff going on, and I missed a hell of a night of fights.
Yeah, you did. It's so funny when you're like 2.5, 3 hours, no big deal. Like, and that's like a short drive to 3 hours for me. I'm in New York City.
Oh, dude, I can drive for 11 hours and still be in Texas.
Yeah, that's great.
I can drive 11 hours straight west before getting to El Paso, and from there you're in New Mexico. It's literally all day.
My wife is from Heartland, New Brunswick, Canada, originally. Shout out to you know what? Do you think there's anybody in history that's listened to? Well, actually, no, I have when you've done it with somebody else and I was in Heartland. But anybody else in history from Heartland ever listened to the show? But it doesn't take me 11 hours to drive there. So shout out to all the people in the chat. Obviously, being that it's pretty late at night, not the latest for us, but late at night. I don't think we'll have too many Europeans or anything like that. But put on the chat where you guys are from. That'd be fun to see who the furthest one away. See if you're further than 11 hours away.
I'll do the most boomer thing ever, and I'll put a map behind me with a bunch of pins in it where like all of our listeners are from. I will literally do that if you guys want to do it for us.
Yeah, this is what happens when we get 12 fights. I think about 9 of them with stoppages. You have one that happened in under a minute in the main event. You get a little bit of this pre-talk first. But let's get right into it. Main event, Beneil Dariush took on Arman Tsarukyan. Arman Tsarukyan won by first round knockout. So it seemed like a highlight of the preview show this week was me bashing the betting lines, saying how disrespectful they were to Beneil Dariush, that this is a really close fight. This is could be a pick'em fight. You all forgot how good Beneil Dariush. No, maybe I didn't know how good Arman Tsarukyan is because holy shit, he just ran right through Beneil Dariush.
He did, and it looked like we were headed for a pretty good fight right up until we weren't. And you and I, even though we both picked the upset in picking Dariush over Tsarukyan, recognize that, okay, a problem with Dariush's game all along, that really the only thing that's stopped him is that he's been caught cold and knocked out. But generally speaking, it's been by big hitters. Whatever else may be said for him, Alexander Hernandez hits like a truck. Charles Oliveira, at this point, the 2022 version of Charles Oliveira, deadly power in all eight points. I knew there was the danger. Tsarukyan is fast. He's a polished kickboxer. I knew he had good power. He has better power than I thought, because he literally has one-shot power, and that's what it took, and it's what he delivered. So fantastic performance by Arman Tsarukyan.
Yeah. Shout out to the chat. So one of them was bashing me for my Misha Tate prediction. Right on that. Overall, my preview, the pre-show, pretty mediocre. I did hit a couple underdog picks, but I missed out on some pretty confident picks. I don't know what your overall score was, but we had pretty similar.
I did absolutely dismal. I went 4-8 on the night.
All right.
Like I had a horrible night. You did better than I did.
We never said we were good. We never said we were good.
But nonetheless, we usually do better than that. And but we'll get to them when we get to them. There are certain fights. I mean, we set a record tonight for a certain low percentage thing where I'm like, okay, I got the result wrong, but I feel like I saw the fight right. And then there are some others where I just saw the fight wrong. So, sure. I mean, we'll talk about them individually when we get to them. But here, yeah, I learned something about Arman Tsarukyan. Beneil Dariush is the fighter I always thought he was. Tsarukyan is now in the category of people who can exploit that.
Yeah. I gotta wonder, like, what we saw tonight. Was this, is this Arman Tsarukyan's coming out party? Like, oh my God, this is the guy. This is the boogeyman of the division. Beware, or is this Beneil Dariush? 2 fights in a row, he's been rocked. We've seen him get rocked in the past. I mean, I remember Jerkar Close almost knocking him out. I mean, Alexander Hernandez cracked him, and obviously Charles Oliveira, now Arman Tsarukyan. Is this Beneil Dariush is done? His chin has failed him, or is this like the perfect blend of both, where it's a little bit of both going on, where maybe it might not be Beneil Dariush is done, it might not be Tsarukyan's the best lightweight in the world, but a little bit of both. Maybe he's a top 5 guy, maybe Tsarukyan's a top 15 guy. What are we thinking?
For me, given that my expectation was proven wrong, it's not a meet in the middle thing. I think it's 80% Tsarukyan has more power and more accuracy than I thought he did, and maybe 20%, okay, even in light of his known chin issues, it's not that, like, Dariush might be slipping a little bit, but I think this is mostly Tsarukyan.
Yeah, I'll put mine at 81% Tsarukyan. Or if we're playing Price is Right, I'll go 1%. Yeah, I mean, we already knew the guy was really well-rounded. The guy comes in on days' notice at 22 years old and gives Islam Makhachev everything he can handle. I mean, other than, in recent, I'm not going way back to his one loss, but in, his recent run in the UFC, I mean, the only person who's given Makhachev even a fight was that first fight with Alex Volkanovski, and Alex Volkanovski is one of the greatest fighters of all time. Some people put him as a featherweight goat, or right up there the pound for pound. So yeah, I'm not going to live in the moment and say, oh my God, he's Alex Volkanovski, or a bigger version. But what I love is he's well-rounded. We didn't see any of his wrestling tonight, but we know it's there. We've seen that in the past. Obviously, he has power. What I like about him is he has this utter confidence thing going on right now, which is, he's not just talking about beating Beneil Dariush. He's talking about, I want to finish him in the first round. Like, that's what I want to do. I want everyone to know that I want to beat them. And, I want a title shot right away, but they don't want to give me a title shot. I'll fight 3 more times and smash everybody on the way there. But you know what the sign of confidence is of this guy? It's walking up to Bobby Green, and it's not walking up to Bobby Green in the hallway with all your boys, because that you don't look tough walking up to Bobby Green with all your boys. But it's walking up to Bobby Green, telling him, "Hey, don't talk shit about me," and expecting Bobby Green to be like, "Oh shit, I apologize." Like that's the confidence this guy, dude. Like I'm so scary, everybody should be scared of me. And then he's thinking it. Now, obviously, that wasn't the case with Bobby Green, but just to think that's the possibility, knowing Bobby Green, I love this dude's confidence.
He's definitely in the zone. At this point, you have to look at him and think, okay, what are his drawbacks? What really stands between him and being a champ one day? And the only glaring thing is that he's small for the division. But who's really in which fights has that really cost him? He lost to Islam Makhachev, but you know what? Makhachev, especially that version of Tsarukyan, might have out-wrestled him even if they were the same size. Tsarukyan, he is small for the division. I mean, he and his fellow Georgian, Ilia Topuria, look to be basically exactly the same size, even though Topuria fights in the next division down. But he's as tall as Michael Chandler, and Chandler is at least title quality. Tsarukyan, he's gonna lose another fight, somewhere here. But I'm having trouble putting my finger on who it's gonna be. He's fighting better than he has. He's coming into his real man power, as you are fond of pointing out. As fighters cross over into their late 20s, most of them develop better power. Yeah, he's a man on the rise.
Yeah, I mean, he's only 27. I mean, when we, say something happens, couple things fall out, and it's not out of the realm of possibility that Tsarukyan's next fight is for the title. It's not, he needs some things to break right. He needs a lot of things to break right.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a traffic jam, but not many people would have to get hurt.
Yeah. But, maybe a couple of the cars in front of him are mouthing off to each other, and he goes down the breakdown lane and goes around them, what I would say to people, don't look too much into that first fight. I mean, the fight was taken on short notice. It was guy's UFC debut. He was 22 years old. And Makhachev, too. Because Makhachev is a much better fighter now than he was then. Especially he's way more well-rounded. Back then, he was really just like a strong top-side grappler. Now he's starching people. His kickboxing is really good. I mean, what an incredible fight we would get, if this happened. Which is why, if you remember when Justin Gaethje, you remember when Alexander Volkanovski and Islam Makhachev fought for the second time, and I was saying I think we should skip Charles Oliveira. We've seen Oliveira already fight Makhachev. I feel twice like that argument. I feel like I'm doubling down, because to me there is that logjam going on. I've already seen Charles Oliveira fight. Justin Gaethje's, he's got that BMF. How you feel about it? He's obviously super marketable. I would do the Justin Gaethje fight, but then I do Tsarukyan, like Charles Oliveira, or I do Oliveira versus Tsarukyan, kind of something like that. I just think there's like 3 guys making an argument, and they're picking the guy to me that I think has the worst argument.
Okay, I mean, I can see where you're coming from with that, and especially now where if they give Oliveira the next title shot just because they gave it to him last time and they don't want him to lose his place in line because of an injury. Yeah, it makes less sense because, again, as I feel like say on every preview, lightweight is fast-moving waters. Even if you win every time, if you have layoffs due to injury or you drop out of fights, people are going to pass you.
Yeah.
Like lightweight and welterweight are 2 divisions where you can win all of your fights, but if you don't win them fast enough, like in quick enough succession, busier fighters are going to pass you.
Yeah, I think TJ Grant is still waiting for his title shot. I want to be very clear.
Dude, wherever he is right now, TJ Grant probably got a headache tonight.
Yeah. In fairness, there was a lot of people having headaches tonight. What I want to be very clear, because sometimes people like to listen to what they want to hear and not what I'm saying. When I say that Charles Oliveira has the worst argument. I'm not talking about based on accomplishment, because obviously Charles Oliveira has the strongest argument.
Yeah.
You know, oh, yeah, I beat Justin Gaethje. I'm the former champ. I mean,
Oliveira is a greater lightweight than Islam Makhachev. He's not better right now, but he's greater in terms of accomplishment. Sure, you're not talking about accomplishment. You're talking about his current momentum.
I'm talking about current momentum. I'm talking about who I've already seen and most marketable fight. Of the 3 fights right now, that's the least marketable fight. We've already seen it, and he got smashed. Yeah. Now, it's Charles Oliveira. I mean, the guy's a G of all Gs. Like, if he comes in and wins, it's not out of the realm of possibility. No. But also, if we're ranking those 3 fighters, who's most likely? Well, let me ask: is there anybody more likely to beat Islam Makhachev than Arman Tsarukyan? Put in the chat who you think is the most likely guy to beat Islam Makhachev.
Like based on how they're fighting right now, if you had to pick one guy to try and beat Islam Makhachev, say 3 months from now, who would you pick? For me, as incredible as Tsarukyan looks, I'd probably still go with Gaethje. I don't know.
You think Gaethje has the best chance of winning?
I think Gaethje has the best chance of winning. I'm not saying he deserves it most, but if my whole job as matchmaker was find a fighter to beat Islam Makhachev, like I'm, the organizer, like the evil organizer of a martial arts tournament in like a 90s martial arts movie, I'm probably picking Gaethje.
Yeah, I'm going with I'm going with Tsarukyan as the best chance of winning, especially because of his age, 27. He doesn't have the miles that Gaethje. But if I'm picking one, like I get brought in the UFC, I become the UFC president next week, which is, again, like I bring this to a lot. I don't know why, like when that's gonna happen. Like what the hell are they waiting for? I'm going with Gaethje. I'm going with the Gaethje fight because I think someone else put in the chat. It's definitely the most marketable fight. BMF champ. Gaethje is so popular. I mean, who doesn't like? You don't just like we adore Justin Gaethje. Like, it's gonna be absolute fun. Either he's getting starched or he's starching or whatever. But being that he's 27, like he might not even be he's knocking guys out. And he's not even in his power years yet.
Yeah,
and he's at the age where he can still wrestle. He can wrestle for 25 minutes. Like, Justin Gaethje can't wrestle for 25 minutes. He can't stop takedowns for 25 minutes. He's obviously has so many defensive holes. Now, he's got those leg kicks. He's got power in his hands. Like, I'm not one of those guys saying, oh, no way would he win. Of course not. But if I'm betting my life on it, I'm going with Tsarukyan.
You might be right, man. I need some time to process what we saw tonight. Considering how short the fight was, I need some time to probably rewatch it. But, oh, man, you know what? The people in the chat saying AJ McKee, I probably shouldn't say this because I'm a big McKee backer. I believe Keith likes McKee's game a lot, too.
Oh, yeah, of course.
But you know what? People who have a great war with Spike Carlisle, don't put him in a cage with Makhachev. Of course, I say that, and I just mentioned
recently.
But having said that, I just mentioned Gaethje, and there is a time when I would have said, you know what, future UFC champs don't have an all-out war with Luis Palomino twice. So what do I know?
Yeah, I'll tell you off air one of the reasons why I think AJ McKee hasn't looked that good.
Okay,
I can't publicly say it.
Okay,
but don't get me wrong, he's still winning. So he's got one loss in his career, and it was like a split decision to the greatest Bellator fighter of all time.
Yeah,
and he won that fight right before that. How would you market Arman Tsarukyan if you were, you're UFC, you get brought in? Obviously, I'm the president. I say to Ben, hey, Ben, you're the head of marketing. What do we want to do? What are you doing?
Maybe cook up some fake incidents where, he it hits an actress who's like playing his girlfriend, or, some fake traffic stops where like they find, seriously, aside from that, well, it's almost like Charles Oliveira, where if you don't like people winning in exciting fashion, if you need something more than that, I don't know what to do for you. Only the difference is Tsarukyan speaks really good English already. Just, yeah, I mean, he has an engaging personality, but he's not a huge trash talker. He might become one. There was a time when Colby Covington wasn't a huge trash talker, when Chael Sonnen wasn't a huge trash talker. But yeah, he needs to just keep winning fights. The UFC can market you on dominance. Even if your fights and your personality are a little dry, if you get to that Kamaru Usman level, the UFC can just say, hey, this dude is beating some of the greatest fighters of his era every time out, and most of them look like they have no chance. So he might just have to keep winning.
I mean, you want to market guys. You can market boring guys. I mean, look at Floyd Mayweather.
Yeah.
Look at Tyson Fury.
Yeah.
They're freaking boring as hell.
Look, dude, look at George St. Pierre.
George St. Pierre was boring as hell.
Yeah.
He had he had exciting moments. He wasn't exciting overall.
Yeah.
Hell, Tito Ortiz, like when he was the face MMA, had some really boring moments. I think he's got a little bit, like, I like him confronting Bobby Green. Not punching him and all that, but if you can be that I'm always down, ready to fight, no matter who, don't ever disrespect me, kind of Jorge Masvidal feel, without the Jorge Masvidal like criminal side of it.
Yeah.
You can do that. I mean, that whole, like, that era, Armenia, Georgian connection, Iraq, Iranian, I got all these countries. I mix them up all the time, but like him and Ilya Taporia and all this. It's like where they'll confront, like when the Patty Pimblett incident. Give me some of those. Give me guys confronting each other at hotels, outside of elevators and shit like that. You can market that. This guy's not about the show. He'll fight you for free in the parking lot. That's how I would. That's how I'd market him.
Yeah, I mean, confronting a guy who's down the card from you it's a rough look. I mean, they better have done something.
Yeah, they sold the shit, but it sold me though.
Yeah,
sold the shit out of me. Like,
well, I mean, honestly, you might be more emblematic of most fans than I am. I mean, that's completely.
Oh yeah,
that's
you're the business guy, man. Dude, what was that? Oh god, what did he say? You ever watch Entourage?
Once or twice, a few times, 15 years ago. I think literally the last time I watched it, Chuck Liddell was on.
Yeah. I was thinking about that guy. He kept calling the guy Suit. That's you, man. You're the Suit.
I'm Suit.
Yes. I'm the man. Look at me.
I work from home, man. I'm not even wearing pants right now.
I'm a man of the people.
Yeah, Suit. I'm not even pants. Like, I guess you could call me like blazer. I could start wearing a blazer and no pants.
All right. So let's just go. I mean, we normally don't do the matchmaking this way. So I'm gonna kind of blend our matchmaker for a second. Usually we say we're the ultimate rule of the world. No one can say anything. But let's put that Charles Oliveira is next. Let's say that's booked. That's done. But now let's also put now nobody else can say now. So what are you doing with him? Like,
if Oliveira's next, I'm doing Tsarukyan versus Gaethje. Sorry, Gaethje, but fight Tsarukyan or relinquish the BMF title.
Yeah, you can't be the BMF and not fighting, like, not avoid. No way is Justin Gaethje scared of anybody. So let me be very clear. It's fucking Justin Gaethje.
Yeah, he's.
Yeah, like if Justin Gaethje wasn't an MMA fighter, he'd be like one of those guys like who like it would try to jump over a moving car. Like,
absolutely, dude. He's either from Sholo, Arizona, or no, he's from Stafford, Arizona. Like this town of like mining town of like 600 people. I guarantee you that he has done that, and he's just lucky that he got a scholarship to go wrestle and got out of the car rodeo circuit.
Yeah.
Like, I guarantee you.
Because to me, how marketable that Gaethje fight is against Makhachev, I might still let it sit on the sidelines, and I'll do Dustin Poirier instead.
That's interesting. Poirier is the name I have for Dariush.
Oh, really? I'm going way lower than that. I don't think. I mean, I know it's unfair for me to say be emperor than say I just don't see Poirier taking a fight like that against
And
Dariush
I
at
don't see
200.
Poirier taking it either, but you know what? You can only be picky as long as you're winning.
Yeah, and I just said to me like we're a supreme
Yeah.
ruler, so this guy can't be like, hey, yeah, you can't do that. I was going with for Dariush, I'm going Benoit Saint Denis.
I have Benoit Saint Denis already has an assignment on my card, so we
So
can't talk about
him.
him yet. My other options for Dariush would be okay if the McGregor thing really never does materialize for Chandler, do Dariush versus Chandler.
Okay. Yeah, I can do that. I mean,
it's something that could easily headline a fight night or be a co-main on a pay-per-view, and everybody would love it.
I'm assuming McGregor is fighting Chandler at UFC 300. I mean, if not, I know Dana. I'll give you what I would do, and some people. I'm gonna tell you, everybody in the chat's gonna hate this matchup. This is what I would have headline UFC 300 if I was Dana White. It's about making the most amount of money. Everyone's gonna hate this, but all your friends who watch MMA 3 times a year would love this. I would get Conor McGregor to a headline, obviously, because you have to. And I'd call up Nate Diaz and offer him as much money as he wants and make the trilogy fight. And everyone in the chat hates me because they're hardcores, but that'd be the one I'd do. Or I see people in the chat saying GSP versus Diaz rumors talking about Nick Diaz. Dude, if GSP wants to fight and he wants to fight at 170, all right. Sorry, Nate. Sit on the sidelines. And I put GSP versus Conor.
Oh my goodness.
Anyways, so I know you guys don't like that, but you know, I might have the Texas hat on, but it's like I'm one of those like Texas oil mans. I'm one of those guys. You know, Jerry Jones type Texan guy. All right, let's move on. I mean, we already talked 32 minutes about a fight that lasted 1 minute.
Yeah.
All right. Co-main event: Bobby Green took on Jalen Turner. Jalen Turner won by first round knockout. Do you want to talk about Jalen Turner's performance, or do you want to talk about the referee's performance first? What do you want to do first?
Credit work. Let's talk about Jalen Turner first.
Okay.
You guys in the chat know me. I routinely downgrade cards based on how much I have to talk about the reffing and judging afterwards. It actively affects my enjoyment. I'd much rather talk about the man who got the job done, and that would be Jalen Turner.
Okay. So if I was grading Turner, not the entire card, just Turner, A+. Absolute A+.
He is a sniper. He is, I mean, the power is there, and it's the skinny man power, where just good mechanics and the laws of physics and geometry. It's the Tommy Hearns thing. Even just sitting down properly on his punches, everything hurts, and he's accurate enough, and he has few enough tells that even very good boxers, he catches them cold and they drop. Nasty man. I mean, we'll talk more about his overall place in the division, what's next. I mean, this guy just came close to beating 2 top 15 quality fighters in his last 2 fights. He just slept. He just slept a top 15 quality fighter like 3 times tonight. Jalen Turner is right on the cusp. And almost the same as Arman Tsarukyan, where, Tsarukyan's problem, quote unquote, is he's like 5'6". Turner, he's incredibly tall. He's, people have been able to take him down. Matt Frivola completely rolled him over. But what if Jalen Turner just turns into the lightweight Anderson Silva, where, my defensive wrestling, you can take me down, but unless you're an all-time great, I'm just going to punish you for it.
Yeah,
there's no safe place.
In that case, then we're gonna need a lightweight Travis Lutter, the Michael Jordan of jiu-jitsu. I mean, I was just blown away. I mean, the guy takes a fight at short notice. We've seen guys take fights on short notice, but you're taking on a ranked guy, but you're taking a fight you said you didn't want because you were really concerned with the weight cut, which is. Yeah, every guy should be concerned with weight cut, but he's different because of how big he is and long he is, and that's like his whole game. that sounded like it was going to be miserable for him to make weight. You go into, you're on a live card. The entire crowd is rooting for Bobby Green. They're cheering his name. He's the guy that everyone's talking about. He has the best media day, of course, and he gets the thing with Arman Tsarukyan, so everyone's talking about. He's probably the most heading into before today. He was the most popular guy on this card, by the fans. And then you starch the guy. He's taunting you, doing his thing. Every time you hit him, he's like brushing his shoulder, acting like he's shoulder rolled, and you put him out. I mean, after coming off a loss too. I mean, to me, his stock is just going through the roof. And what I like about this guy is he has these raw tools that he has, obviously length, obviously, those long legs that I seen Dev put it called bullwhipping power. The way he strikes and he flips it out there so easily. You ever do that thing where you spin a towel and you freaking flip it at somebody?
Mm-hmm.
Dude, my wife is the best at that.
Ow.
Like, I don't know, like how.
Dude, you can draw blood with a towel that's been proper. Yeah.
Like, we'll try to, like, I won't do it to her because I'm a gentleman, but she'll do it to me, and I'm like, oh, you might. Yeah, it hurts when she does it. I'm like, honey, stop. Like, she's just freaking good at it.
I love that this mild-mannered, like, school music teacher is like I'm picturing her like just like brutalizing the cop with like a coiled towel.
Mind you, I've been with my wife. This is a true story. I have been with my wife for 20 years. I have not heard her swear a single time. That's like that's not me exact. That's my wife. She is. I am married to freaking Mother Teresa.
What the freaking heck, Mrs. Shillan?
It's like she's the Canadian. No, honestly, she's every stereotype of Canadians. That's her. She is it to the T. Like, she's the nicest person I've ever met. Anyways, so he has all this game to him, and he has improving ground game. He's improving takedown defense. I'm not saying he's going to win the title or anything like that, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. Like, if he's the champion one day, like, there's certain guys in the division. Like, you told me Bobby Green would be the champion. I go, no, he'll never win the champion. The guy's ranked. You can tell me guys currently ranked higher than Jalen Turner. I'll go, no, we'll never be the champion.
Sure.
Well, I would bet against Jalen Turner. Like, it wouldn't surprise me.
It's lightweight. I'm taking the field over anybody.
Yeah, exactly. I'm taking the field over everybody. I take the field over Tsarukyan after I was just going crazy about him.
Yeah. But having said that,
he's in that group. Like, if you had me pick 3 or 4 people who could be champion, he's in that group.
Yeah, Turner has physical tools and is developing skills to go with them that you just can't prepare for. And the UFC booth talk, during the brief fight, kind of talked about Bobby Green's preparation for him, said he was working with Curtis Millender. That works. If you're going to try to prepare for Jalen Turner, prepare with a tall, skinny welterweight/middleweight kickboxer, and that's about as close as you're going to get. I thought that was probably pretty appropriate, but once it's in there with Turner's like scary natural power, his speedy like young man reflexes, it's something you can't prepare for. I'm not picking him to win the title. I do think he's going to run into people that will be able to take advantage of his defensive wrestling and not get caught in his tricky tarantula guard. But I wouldn't be that shocked. Again, I'd be less shocked than I would have been if you told me in 2014 that Charles Oliveira would be in the lightweight GOAT conversation one day.
Yeah. Good point. Jalen Turner, if you're facing, like, obviously he's going to be a tough stylistic matchup for everybody based on just his, length and everything. But if you are going to fight him, like, Jesus Christ, pick up your hands. Like, what are you doing? Like, you can't fight a sniper like that with your hands down. Like, I know that's Bobby Green's game. I know he has the up jab. I know there actually is some stylistical offensive strategies to it.
Sure, dude.
But Jesus Christ, dude, you're asking to be you got to be perfect with a guy like that.
Pernell Whitaker was awesome, but Pernell Whitaker was fighting people that couldn't kick.
Yeah, good point. Can't knee, can't deep kick you, front kick you in the face.
Yeah.
What also was impressive to me, and it's kind of like more on the Bobby Green side, is like he won, but he stole a lot of shine from Bobby Green. And what I mean by that is heading into this, I always kind of think about like what I want to talk about in the recap show before it happens, and kind of then I start rooting for certain things to happen. So to me, it's the most fun to talk about. If Bobby Green had knocked out Turner and said something witty on the mic, he could have had a Jorge Masvidal rise.
Yeah.
Based on his style, based on his personality, the way the crowd was cheering for him.
Especially considering he had heat with Tsarukyan.
Yeah, he was Tsarukyan.
Like if he
get
blows
another
up
fight
Turner,
backstage, maybe they get a little quick
well, that's literally the Jorge Masvidal moment.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And now I still think he could still have that, and he's one of these guys where it doesn't matter wins or losses. Like if he says something witty and gets a couple more wins, yeah. But he stopped a lot of momentum. He pushed the ball down the road for that, Yeah, so I to me it was a really bad night for Bobby Green, obviously. Really bad when you get knocked out and you have one of the worst stoppages in recent history. And usually we say bad stoppage, we're talking, oh my God, why didn't you let that go longer? In this case, it was the one that we always say, well, we'd rather have it be early than late. Well, here's the example of late, because what are we thinking? 7-8 seconds too late?
Yeah. Or if you want to put it in terms other than the clock, 2 knockouts too late. I swear Green started moving again and got knocked completely flatlined again, at least once, if not twice. Again, yes. Okay. A TKO is when a fighter is not defending himself. A knockout is when a fighter cannot defend himself. Again, because usually because he's unconscious. Green was only moving at several points there because Turner was hitting him. It's like saying a basketball's alive because someone's dribbling it. Like Green was out. And again, I'm a Texas guy. Despite me occasionally making fun, I love this place. And anytime there's a UFC event in Texas, I'm always just on please don't embarrass Texas watch all night. Just watching which Texas officials are either reffing or judging. And I get all the way to the co-main event, and who is it? It is Kerry Hatley, the one of the whole bunch that actually refs everywhere.
Yeah.
He's everybody's problem now. It wasn't like Patrick Patlan or Jeff Rexroad, both of whom had very good nights. It was Kerry of all things. And yeah, you and I feel like we talk about at least one stoppage every single Saturday night. And it's usually the other, I could have stood to see that fighter take 1 or 2 more shots, get another 2 or 3 seconds to recover, especially based on the stakes of the fight. And here I was just like, man, this is bad.
Man, you're talking about Texas. I just think about like if I was running an MMA organization. This is why I'll never be UFC president, because I have too much pro wrestling in me. Like, I was just thinking like, man, it'd be dope if you came to Texas and just go right all the way in on like the Texas theme, and like instead of fighting in the cage, you're fighting like in the dirt of like a rodeo stadium, and the referee is like some guy's name is like Billy Bob, and he's got a bear in his hand, and like instead of saying like, all right guys fight, he like shoots a gun in the air. Like that's how it starts.
There are events in Texas that are kind of like
that's how it goes.
Yeah. I don't want to go in too hard. One, these are all guys that I'm going to like. I talk any shit I talk on any of these refs. I'm going to see these guys in person within the next 2 months, guaranteed. Like, I'll see them. They ref locally.
You'll have like a shootout, right? Like the old Texas.
It's going to be a very one-sided shootout. Like, look for holes in my back. But yeah, it was a bad night at the office for Hatley, at least in that particular fight. That was a bad stoppage.
Yeah,
one of the
Michael
worst this year.
Michael Bisping went off on him. Like,
yeah,
but it's weird because we have these moments and we've seen it where guys get hurt and they come back. Now Bobby Green was out. I want to be very clear. I think it was a terrible stoppage. So, I'm talking generally, not necessarily this fight. We have these moments where we'll see a guy get hurt and then we scream like, "Oh, why did they stop it so early?" Like, what was the fight we had recently? I think it was a main event. We both thought it was a little early. Do you remember?
You know what?
They blend so
last week's fights are gone.
Yeah, I do the same thing. I'm already on to next week's fights. But there was a fight.
Prohaska versus Pereira.
Oh yeah. Oh, Prohaska. Yeah, I thought Pereira knocking out Prohaska was a little early, but then like one more punch landed, and then it's too late. Now it's like, oh man, what a bad stoppage! Like he was hurt, and then bang, good night. This,
everybody, say hi to Marcel Dorf, your man for breaking news, especially in Europe. But he is taking advantage, European style, of the early card and hanging with us tonight. One of the best and smartest dudes in the business. If you don't follow him on Twitter, it better be because you don't use Twitter at all. Which, I mean, that's the real correct choice. But if you have to use Twitter, follow Marcel Dorf. DORFF, 2 Fs.
So you've already hinted that you were giving who was it? Saint Denis.
Yep.
Are you giving Saint Denis Jalen Turner?
Turner, Saint Denis. And that is based on Turner's actual official wins and losses, not how good I think he is right now. On talent and on eyeball results, he looks like a top 10 fighter right now. He had 2 razor close split decisions, one of which, again, I thought he should have won against Hooker, and then just crushed Green. Whereas, Santini is on this incredible streak, but hasn't quite hit the level of opponents that Turner has been fighting for like a year and a half now. So yeah, I like that fight a lot. Both guys deserve it. And dude, pencil that in for fight of the night.
How about a main event? How about a fight night main event?
Oh, that's absolutely a fight night main event.
Okay. I think you won. I think you won your matchup. I think you did a better matchup than I did. Even though my fight's a freaking banger, but I didn't go as high up the rankings as you did, but Turner and Drew Dober.
I love that. They can share stories about knocking out Bobby Green as a and team. Welcome back, by the way. You were here, I think, for the first time a couple weeks ago. Thanks for joining us again. Yeah, I like that as well. Again, it's another just almost guaranteed action fight. But then there's also the interesting bit that Turner would be unlikely to initiate the ground game, but if it went there, Dober's in trouble.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely.
It's like, so the floor is lava, but not equally for both men.
Drew Dober's in trouble against, like, my son's 10U wrestling team. Which, by the way, shout out to the Mayo Country wrestling team. Just took first place in the Middletown duels. So congratulations to all the boys.
So, I mean, just to be fair, Drew Dober is not the worst wrestler in the world. He is, however, the worst wrestler in the world from Nebraska with cauliflower ear. That
yeah, at this level. Yeah. Bobby Green. I mean,
remake the Hooker fight.
What would you say? Hooker?
Make the Hooker fight.
I don't think he deserves that anymore. I'm going lower. I'm going to redo Jared Gordon fight.
Okay, yeah, let's remake any one of his fights.
Because my issue, if I'm Hooker, I'm like, dude, I just wait. You just got starched by the guy I just beat. No, Hooker's not like that. Hooker's not turning any fight down. He'll fight anybody.
Yeah, I mean, Hooker will complain about the number of rounds, but
it was funny when it was at Media Day, New York City last year. So not the one in November, the previous November, and Hooker won. And he was saying, "Oh, I just want to fight in, the New Zealand card." He's like, "I'll fight anybody." And then this media member, like, I don't remember the name he throws up. He throws a name out, and he's like, "Yeah, he's part of anybody. Yeah, I'll fight that guy."
He's part of.
And then the guy goes, "Well, what about this guy?" And he's like, "Yeah, that fight works." And then he's like, Then like he has like a third guy's like, dude, what the fuck, dude? He's saying, I don't care about the opponent. I want to fight on the card. You know? And then me being dick had to go, what about your teammate Brad Riddell?
Oh, come on.
And then he was like, kind of gave me that look like, all right, you got me. Like
Big Marcel wanting to make matches instead of break the news about them for once suggests Green versus Frivola. I like that as well. But I think the general principle, you're right. Like, he lost the hooker fight tonight.
Yeah. Kind of, the way the UFC was kind of booking tonight, promoting it, it was like 4 top heavy fights, like ranked fights the rest of the way. It was kind of thing they were going. The third one from the top, former flyweight champion, 2-time flyweight champion David Figueiredo took on Rob Font. Figueiredo winning by unanimous decision. I actually grade Turner's performance, grade Figueiredo's.
I'm going to rank it a B+, but I'm ranking it a B+, not knowing if this is actually his A+, and this is like the ideal, like as well as he'll ever fight, or this is like him doing enough to win while going through his growing pains, and he's actually just about to take off from here. But based on what I saw tonight, it's a B+. Hat tip to Dev, again, our go-to, our go-to man off the bench. I hate to call him our third leg because that sounds weird, but he pointed out on his show, Check the Kick, which if you don't watch, you definitely should. Check the Kick on Sherdog.com.
I thought you were saying you're normal. Sorry.
Yeah. He pointed out that Brandon Moreno gave Figueiredo fits with his jab in their fights, and Font is a bigger guy with at least as good a jab, if not better. And especially early in the fight, I saw something to that. Like Figueiredo was clearly having, I mean, we were watching him learn right in front of us what it's going to be like to deal with bantamweights in the UFC, because Font isn't a huge bantamweight, but he's a pretty good size one. And specifically, he's a long rangey one who uses it well and wants to fight at distance whenever he can. But especially after the first round, I didn't feel like the size differential bothered Figueiredo on the feet. I think it bothered him on the ground. He was able to take Font down easily, but he had a hard time keeping him down. And that's just down to size. Like, he took Font down with ease. Reactionary doubles, sure. Muscling him from the clinch, sure. But once they were on the ground, I mean, the first time he took Font down, they called it an elevator sweep, but all Font really did was just kick him off like they were playing, on the mats, like after practice. Font just got up too easy, but you know what? You know who else is small for the division? Merab. And Merab can take people down like nobody's business, has trouble keeping them down, and he just steers into it and makes the whole wrestling rinse and repeat part of his game.
Yeah, I mean, Jan won the title, and he's not that big.
Yeah, and that's a good comparison because, like Figueiredo, Jan is not a wrestler first, whereas Merab is. So.
Yeah. So yeah, I was kind of, I think you look good tonight, but I kind of feel the same way. Like, there was some things I really loved, and there was some things that I had issues with. I think things I liked. His cardio looked much better than he did in his last fight. I think just not cutting that extra 10 pounds, especially when you're in the lower weight classes like this, in his age, he's not a young guy. 135. To me, there was a lot of pressure on him tonight to beat Rob Font, because to me, it was going to be like his career was over if he lost to Rob Font. And I don't mean that like he'll never fight again in that sense, but I mean like his status is over. The being in the title contention, being that top of the card kind of thing was over if he couldn't get past Rob Font.
Yep.
Because I don't think he was going to be making flyweight again, or if he is, he's not going to be really effective. And I know that's unfair to say, considering he was just a champion. Like what, 2 fights, or one fight ago, he was defending the belt. So, I understand that's a little unfair for me to say, but this is kind of how I felt. So I like that his cardio looked better. Again, it was a much slower pace, not as much movement as you would at flyweight, but that's generally speaking, other than facing like Merab and a couple of guys. He fights the champion Sean O'Malley. I'm not worried about his pace in that. Now, there's many other things I'm worried about. but not the pace of the fight. I also like that his power went with him. And that was something I wasn't concerned about. Like, that's one thing we talked about the pre-show. Like, that was probably everything with Figueiredo was his power was the thing I was least concerned. There's some things I am concerned. As I just said, his cardio looked better. His output has still waned. It looked looked better today, but it's not, his rising up to the flyweights. If he gets a guy who's going to press the action, which so many guys in that division can, be concerned. And another thing, he wants to wrestle, but he shoots takedowns really far away without any setup. And as he ages, he loses a little bit of speed in the entries. And that's a concern to me. And then I was thinking, there's some guys who are terrible matchups for him, but one guy that you don't hear many people say Sean O'Malley is a bad matchup for certain people. Like, you don't hear that a lot in the division, even though he's the champion. Mm-hmm. I think Sean O'Malley is a bad matchup for Figueiredo.
I agree.
Because of the success Font has, you add in even more range, even more speed, even more power, even more accuracy, better defense, a kicking aspect to it too. Better takedown defense. Not a great takedown defense, but better takedown defense. Font is similar in the sense, like the build and everything of not as big, but like longer ranger kind of guy. Obviously wants to, kickboxing or striking is what he wants it to be. Someone mentioned Sandhagen. I think Sandhagen was a bad matchup for two. That's a good point. So those are concerns to me. But so let me transition this question to how far do we think he can go at bantamweight? Do you mean, right away everyone was treated, bantamweight's got another contender. The best division has another guy. Agree or disagree?
I disagree to a certain extent, and it's why I want the UFC to match him aggressively now. Because anytime you have a champ who is a big star, the question becomes coming up with interesting matchups to keep him from getting bored, to keep there at least being a B side for his A side, to keep him from threatening to go box or wanting to move up to the next division. Figueiredo, I agree with you that O'Malley is a bad matchup, but whatever marketability there is to O'Malley versus Figueiredo turns to zero if Figueiredo loses. So you go with the fact that he's the former champ of the other division, go with the fact that he is about to be 36 years old. You put him in a fight next that makes it at least plausible to stick him into a title fight after that if he wins.
So you're fast tracking him.
I'm fast tracking him. And again, I think if they put him on the regular ladder, he'd lose at some point, and then great. I mean, congratulations. You've spent that coin on nothing. And you made the argument on the preview that Figueiredo wouldn't be the most marketable matchup for O'Malley. And I agree, but he's better than nothing, or he's better than rematching somebody that O'Malley dusted 4 fights ago and the guy finally won a couple fights. Like, he's at least a fresh face who has something they can sell. But again, that all goes away if Figueiredo loses even once. So strike while the iron is lukewarm.
Yeah, I think so. When you're the divisional champ, obviously if he was still the flyweight champion, he jumped the line.
Yeah,
but when you've won a title and he's won a second time, it wasn't a fluke, wasn't one of these really short runs. He had this all-time rivalry with Brandon Moreno, which to me is still one of the greatest rivalries in MMA history. I think he brings a lot of clout with him, even though he's and we've talked about this earlier. He doesn't speak English, which always hurts him, but it works for him the way, because his persona, the way he's an intimidating guy.
At his best, it's a Jose Aldo type charisma at its best.
Yeah, that's a good comparison. So I think you could use that. So I kind of had two categories. If Aljamain Sterling beat Sean O'Malley, the division is a little stale. O'Malley winning changes things. New champion always opens more doors for everybody.
Yep.
Instead of a long reigning. If Aljamain Sterling beat Sean O'Malley, I might be arguing Figueiredo to fight for the title based on who, he's not going to fight Marab, and he's, yeah.
Well, either that or the UFC more or less forces Sterling up at that point, and it's Marab versus Figueiredo for the vacant title.
Yeah. That's a good point.
Give me that fight. Ironically, considering that Marab might be the best guy in the division right now, he's the one that is the least horrible matchup for Figueiredo, I think.
I think Marab's a bad matchup for everybody.
Well, I think Marab is better than everybody, but in terms of the specific styles that are clashing, I don't think he's particularly.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. Like Sterling, I think is actually, I would favor Sterling over Figueiredo. I think Sterling goes with what you're saying. I don't know about Marab. Just Marab's pace is so insane. Like there's nobody like wrestling guys. UFC people who strike at that pace, but no one wrestles at that pace.
No.
So that's why he's such a hard matchup for everybody. So I kind of think of these guys. I put kind of like two categories, and it's like that upper echelon guys with Marlon Vera fighting for the title. You have, Sandhagen, who, do I put Sandhagen against him? And I'm like, man, Sandhagen, he deserves. I mean, you could argue he deserves a title shot. And I really think Sandhagen's a bad matchup for a lot of people. I'm a big Sandhagen guy. Yeah. He's won me over. I think Jan, but I kind of feel him as like the tear down after, his kind of recent losses. Sterling, I thought about Sterling. So then I thought about the next tier down, and that's when you start getting into the newer guys, your Song, who's older veteran guys who've been around, like kind of what we had tonight. Like he had Font, like a Munoz, like that doesn't excite me. So I'm like, what do I do with this guy? I had a really hard time matching him, and then just, you guys are gonna hate this, but third fight from on a pay-per-view from the top, you're gonna hate this, but freaking casuals won't. Give him Dominic Cruz. Champ versus champ. You can have freaking, I don't know, somehow do what the UFC loves to do and give out what's the word? I don't want to say titles, but give out it's like when they like the consensus best welterweight ever, Kamaru Usman. You're like, what? And like just figure out the consensus greatest flyweight ever, just completely ignore Demetrius Johnson. Just like ignore that he had like 107 title defenses and just go like greatest welterweight, greatest bantamweight.
Yeah, that's what they do. They remember, but they count on your memory to be short.
Yeah. So did you have a name for him?
Yeah, I had either Sandhagen or the winner of Song versus Gutierrez, because they're fighting in a couple weeks.
Yeah, that might, I think in the realm of possibilities, I think that's a good possibility. Like that's probably the most likely avenue the UFC goes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Song might kind of, I don't know, maybe, yeah, I don't know. It's such a great division. What about Font? Actually, let's talk about Font real quick. Before we talk about matchmaking him. My homerism, I'm not that guy.
Mm-mm.
I think I've said that, I've done this for a while, and I know I've kind of shit. I think I've picked against Font like every one of his fights. I think he's so overrated. I think he's just a guy.
I thought, okay, you stole the exact three words I was gonna, or virtually the exact three words I was gonna say. I don't know if he's overrated or underrated, but at this point he's lost 4 of his last 5, and while the losses were all to top 10 quality fighters, that means that he is definitively not a top 10 quality fighter. He is just another guy, and because of that, it's not like he has no value. His fights are usually exciting, win or lose. He has some elite skills. Like he has certain skills that are absolutely elite, and he's a good test. I mean, he's the gatekeeper to the top 10. They just have been consistently matching him with people who are on the other side of the gate. He just needs a ranked 20-ish guy who's coming off a loss. That's Davy Grant. Give him Davy Grant.
Yeah, I feel like it's like when you dated a girl and you break up and you get back together and you break up, you get back. Eventually, you just gotta move on, and that's how I just feel like Rob Font's like main eventing and co-main eventing, or being in big matchups. It's just time to move on. Like, he's a good fighter, so I don't want to make it clear. Like, obviously, he's got good wins, but his defensive wrestling is gross. He did show some improved getting up today, other than, against the San Hagen match, but still. But his boxing is so overrated. I think this happens a lot, where if a guy has a boxing style where they fight between, mostly throwing punches and they have like a high guard defense and they throw a jab, suddenly everyone pretends like they're freaking Manny Pacquiao. And I mean, how many times have we seen this guy get hurt on the feet with power shots and get beat up on the feet, and people just call it is like, yeah, he's a striker, but it's not great.
Well, it's and I get where you're coming from there, which is why I specifically said he is a guy with certain elite skills. I didn't just say, he's an elite striker, he's a great striker. He still has a very good jab, and a wrinkle that he's really just started showing in his last couple fights, I would say Yanez, Sanhagen, Figueiredo fights, he's realized that for whatever reason his footwork isn't enough to keep opponents at the edge of his jabbing range. So he started throwing like nice little short uppercuts and level elbows to people that kind of crash the pocket against him. I like that as well. Unfortunately, he's 36. It's great that the old dog is learning new tricks, but yeah, he's probably already peaked. And yeah, it's he's a good fighter. That's kind of he's a good fighter.
I don't want to bash him too much. We have more things to talk about. He seems a little bit like a front runner to me too. When things start going bad for him, he doesn't really turn around the ship. I give him I just use him to get over. I don't get over somebody else, but I'm not putting him in high profile fights. I'm putting him on prelims, maybe main cards of fight nights, but nothing, nothing spectacular. Give me Montel Jackson.
Okay.
Did you have a name for him?
Yeah, I said Davy Grant.
Oh, Davy Grant. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah, Davy Grant. That works. That'd be pretty fun action fight. Before that, and this is kind of like ending the top four fights, the way they were kind of promoting it. Kelvin Gastelum took on Sean Brady, and Sean Brady won by third round submission. I was absolutely floored by Sean Brady's performance.
You and Gastelum both. In fact, Gastelum was floored by Brady repeatedly. Here's thank you.
That was a good one. That's who appreciates that? Guys our age.
Yeah.
No one else in the chat would, but I that was a really good one.
Gastelum made weight, looked good at the weigh-ins, and again, if you're watching us right now, you just like us have been watching the sport long enough that you take how dude looked at the weigh-ins with a grain of salt, but somebody with a known pattern of difficulty making the welterweight limit, it's worth looking at him and saying, okay, does he look like an out-of-shape guy who just crashed dehydrated himself, or does he look like he maybe had a good camp and laid off the burritos? Gastelum looked good.
Yeah, he did.
With that in mind, Brady did things to Gastelum in terms of wrestling and topside grappling and back control that nobody has done. Jacare didn't do. Chris Weidman didn't do until Gastelum was tired and Weidman could just bully him. Brady threw Gastelum all over the place, and it was dominant performance on the ground.
Yeah, even Hermanson, when he caught him, it wasn't.
He caught him in a moment of inattention.
Yeah. I was blown away. Gastelum, you say he looked good on the scale. Obviously, dropping 15 pounds. He had some a little bit of ab showing and stuff. He reminded me of the guy who gets a physical and the doctor's like, "Hey, bro, you get up there in age, cholesterol's a little high. You want to lay off some burgers and eat some salads. And yeah, like 40 years old, and you drop like 20 pounds. You're like, next time you see the doctor, I was like, "Oh, you're looking good, man." Like, and they make that joke, like, "Oh, you look, you're in your 20s again." Yeah, you might look like you're in your 20s again, but you ain't going to the bar and shagging that 20-year-old girl. That ain't happening. Like, and that's what happened tonight. Like, this was the guy feeling pretty good. Like, yeah, man, I look good, man. I want to go talk to that girl over there. And then she just shuts you down. And that's what Sean Brady did. Like, he was a wizard on the ground tonight. I mean, his control was insane. It just bounced back from the. You know what I kept thinking when I was watching that was like, holy crap, how good is Bellator Muhammad?
And all respect to Bilal Muhammad, who was letting it fly on social media.
He's grown on me.
So tell me how much Sean Brady sucks, huh?
Yeah. Dude, that guy is great. I like him. Yeah.
Like,
a lot of people hate him. I do like the Bilal Muhammad. Like, he's not good at anything. Like, I do like that. Like, it's kind of funny. But he's got a good person. I like him.
And now I think having Brady's scalp on his mantelpiece, especially in such a dominant fashion, I think it's going to age well for him.
Yeah, and one of those, the other thing I kept watching was, good.
Adam Duffy, 22-year-old, bringing the dad jokes. I'm starting to remember the name.
The other thing I kept thinking of is like, holy crap, we keep doing this every single time one of these guys fights. I want to do it again.
Are we going up the ladder?
You get that? No, you have that and I'm going to call them prospects because they've all arrived. So they're not prospects, but that the newer guys, Rachmanov. I'm trying to think down, but I don't know who's ranked highest, but like Rachmanov, Ian Gary, Jack Della Maddalena, Michael Morales, Sean Brady. Is someone I'm forgetting?
Assuming that Hamzat Chimaev is gone from this division for good,
yeah,
I think you got him. Yeah.
All right. Of those 5 guys, like, I think we just did this like 2 weeks ago, and I think I had Brady last. Rank him for me. Rank him. This is you rank him how you want. Who's the best? Who's the best chance of winning?
Shavkat Rachmanov? I would like if all those guys fought each other in a round robin.
Yeah,
Rachmanov comes out with the best record.
All right, let me interrupt you real quick. While Ben's doing that, in the chat, rank those 5: Rachmanov, Gary, Morales, Jack Della Maddalena, and Brady. Rank him.
Bobby Boucher wants us to remember proper Mike Malott.
Okay, throw him a lot in that too. Might make it 6. Rank him. Sorry. So you got Rachmanov number 1.
I've got Rachmanov number 1, and that's both in terms of comparative. Like if they all had a round robin, I don't know if he wins every single one of them, but he has the best record. And he's the guy that if one of these guys is champ 18 months from now, I think he's the one that's most likely.
Agreed.
Just physical gifts, well-rounded skills, killer instinct. He's got it all. After that, I'm still going Jack Della Maddalena. I'm not fading him because of a slightly lackluster performance. I still think he's probably number 2. I'm throwing Sean Brady in at number 3 right now.
Okay.
He's got the same problems. Again, we just had the preview where I talked about the problems that he's had since the beginning, even when he was winning, that were highlighted by Muhammad. And here he just absolutely trucked a good fighter. He's still got the same problems. He's just raised the bar for how good you have to be to make him pay for it. Dude, even in picking him to beat Gastelum, I said this should be interesting because Gastelum is always a good defensive wrestler. Again, I'm thinking of Chris Weidman having a hard time taking him down. I'm thinking of him pitching a shutout at Jacare after the first round. And I thought, okay, that being the case, a lot of this fight's going to take place on the feet. I want to see how Brady's gas tank looks after maybe he goes 1 for 5 on his first 5 takedowns and he has a good boxer boxing him. I didn't learn any of that shit because he didn't have any trouble taking Gastelum down at all. So the bar's raised a little bit.
Yeah.
That's still theoretically a problem with Brady, especially once he starts getting into 5-round fight territory. But it's going to take a bigger man perhaps literally, than Kelvin Gastelum to do it. I'm going Michael Morales next.
Okay.
He's so fast. He's so powerful.
Yeah.
Again, you got the kind of killer instinct that it really does kind of separate your true future contenders from your just another prospects. Obviously, a guy that wants to strike and whose takedown defense is relatively untested, it might be the only reason that I'm putting him behind Brady. But, you know, if it was easy to take him down, somebody would have done it by now. I'm putting Gary next after that. Gary keeps winning.
Okay.
But aside from that, he looks human. He looks human. I am not going to let any of the outside of the cage drama.
Oh, it's ridiculous. Absolutely. It's one of the stupidest things I've heard.
Guess what? You know what?
She wrote an article for some website and people make it into something it's not.
It's seriously
whatever, dude.
Like fuck all the way off with that. But
yeah,
the
and any website, like legit website. I'm not talking about these tabloid, but any legit website to cover that. Like, what are you doing? That's stupid. Did we cover it? No. Did we cover that? Now that I said that.
No.
Okay, good. I didn't think so.
Well, we didn't cover that. We covered some of the gym issues, but even that's noise.
Yeah.
Until we see that it's affecting things in the cage. And I'd put Malott last just because he's not faced anyone yet that I'm dead sure even belongs in the UFC. Like, he's winning.
He looks good.
You know, he's on a huge win streak. Physically, he looks like he's got the tools. But yeah, like Mickey Gall, Adam Fugit, Johan Lainez, there's a possibility that all those guys have washed out of the UFC a year before.
Yeah. Now. He looks good though. Like, he looks, you can see the potential, but yeah.
Yes.
What I just want to say about this before I give my list, and I'll give it kind of quickly. I don't remember, and this has been such a good division, and I think I said this the other day when I did the solo show, that to me it's welterweight and bantamweight are neck and neck. What's the best division? Because one thing that welterweight has is this crop of new guys that got me so excited. Like, all six, I love all six of them. So, like, even if I put, someone dead last, I still see like very high potential in that six. And God, I want to see a round robin out of these guys. Like, how crazy would that be? I think most people have. I don't think I saw a list that didn't have Rakhmonov number one, and I get it. He's ranked higher. He's beat the best competition so far. So I'll put him one. I'm going to surprise you. I'm going to put this guy higher than anybody else I've seen. I'm putting Gary number two. The reason why, he's fucking huge. Like,
he is.
He is long. He is lengthy. He's athletic, and he's young. 3, I'll go Brady, which I might have had him last before this fight. Now I'm like, so we bashed the odds. This was one of the ones, the odds were, we said, like, I thought Brady should have been a big favorite. He was like a negative, what would you say, like negative 110 or something, like a negative.
Yeah, it was close to a pick 'em.
Like, why? It was well, not given Bilal Muhammad his respect. 4, I'll go Morales.
Okay.
5, Della Maddalena. At 6, Malott. But ask me a week from now, and I can mix around that order any way you want.
For sure.
Let's talk about Gastelum. Gastelum, to me, it's kind of how I was talking about Figueiredo, where it's like his career, his status is over. Yeah. To me, just turn into like the male Jessica Andrade, where you bounce back and forth through divisions and just fight the funnest matchup. That's how I think would be best for him.
I'm with you. Like, there's really, he's even kind of running low on name value to build other people up on. How many people remember his season of Tough? Like, if they came to the UFC, even during like the Brock and Ronda era, the Conor and Ronda era, they barely remember that, let alone the O'Malley, like the Since O'Malley thing. Upper echelon gatekeeper, says Ninja Kitty. I don't even want him to keep the gate. I just want to put him in fights with other dudes that are kind of in the same pool. If he wants to take 170, give him Rafael dos Anjos, who has been in that bucket waiting for someone to come play with him for a long time.
Dude, we are in absolute agreement. I had him versus RDA. I have it on the prelims of UFC 300. I think they both kind of does, give him like a big matchup, like on the Fox card, third prelim in the Fox card or something like that. So let's talk about Sean Brady. Sean Brady called out Ian Gary. Gary's booked right now, but it's a couple weeks from now. So if he wins, okay. To me, Gary is, if he wins and if he beats he beats Vicente Luque and he does it in like spectacular fashion, like he just did to Neil Magny. I know Neil Magny, at the end it wasn't, but like he looked really good before that. He's too marketable to give to me to give Sean Brady. So I'm going Jack Dale in Atlanta.
Okay.
Because they I don't like matching up the I don't like matching up the prospects, but there's so many in this division, like eventually they gotta stop fighting each other. There's only so many
and the ones who've lost a fight already, especially if they've lost one in the UFC, it matters less.
Yeah. And I didn't forget the Mackenzie Dern. I picked Jessica Andrade to win that one.
Yeah. Just it's a Mel or May. Mel is like a little incensed that you compared Gastelum and Andrade. Yeah.
No, I'm not saying like, I mean, I just mean that the point is like she's not a contender in either weight class right now. Like I guess she could be, but like to me at her, she's at the point of just take a fun fight.
Yeah.
It's not about getting the title. It's not about getting the title. Yeah. No, that's fair. Okay, that's fair. Yeah. You're right. Yes. Jessica Andrade is much closer to a title shot than Kelvin. That's fair. Yeah.
Everybody in the women's flyweight division is closer to a title shot than Kelvin Gastelum is.
Yeah, the girl fighting in like LFA right now, prelims is closer. Before that, Clay Guida took on Joaquim Silva, with Joaquim Silva winning by unanimous decision. Pretty fun scrap.
Like I said, I got quite a few fights wrong tonight. There were some where I just got the result wrong, but I saw the fight pretty clearly. I feel that way about this fight. And I agree. Like, I scored the fight for Silva as well. But you know what? I learned something tonight because Clay Guida fought a middling fighter. He made it into a Clay Guida fight, and this time it wasn't quite enough to win. So Clay Guida finally has gotten old because he lasted through a dangerous first round. He was able to turn on the wrestling. He was able to get Silva out of his comfort zone with just the constant pressure, the pace. Dev called him a G. Like, what other word is there for it? And this time it wasn't enough to get him over the hump because this is exactly the kind of fight that Clay Guida won up until now.
Yeah. So he was tough in the first round. Not the very end, but the first round he was tough, for Silva because of all of his movement. Yeah. But because of his age, he still has cardio. He can still wrestle. He can still press it in action more than most people. But he has to pick and choose how to conserve energy and that happens in the third one where he's not bouncing around and being tougher to hit.
Agreed.
So, and it's funny because the UFC broadcast was talking about Silva, the one that was going to slow down in the third, and it wasn't. It was Guida. Guida was backing up a lot of times. He was trying to conserve, and I think I noticed he was trying to like save it up for a last flurry. And when, it's just he's not showing his age of 41 because he shouldn't be fighting at this level at that age, but he is showing a guy that's been through wars.
Yes. And
so, sorry.
I mean, dude, the guy weighed in at 154.
Yeah.
And he looked a full weight class smaller than Silva.
Yeah. And Guida, sorry, my head was starting to hurt after a while. I have to wear that. Back to the other one. I thought Silva fought the third perfectly, forced him on his back foot.
Yeah.
Didn't overthrow his shots. played defensive wrestling. Kind of knew the only way he was going to lose that round is if he got taken down. I thought he looked, he showed me some like moxie. Like he showed me some grit. I wasn't sure that he'd have. And he showed some mental toughness because Guida, having you press against the cage where, you're on like one knee trying to get up and he's kneeing you in the leg and stuff, and the crowd's cheering your name. You got to be mentally strong to get up. And Silva did that. So I thought it was a good showing from him.
I agree. And like I said, I thought I saw this fight pretty clearly, but it hinged on the one thing I got wrong. If this thing went to a third round, I assumed Guida would win it, and he didn't. And again, that's the Father Time still undefeated moment here. Yeah, and
me and you both.
And Silva, on the flip side, moxie is the perfect word, because it's not like he dug deep and hulked out in a fight where he was getting dominated. Like, it wasn't a Paul Craig performance. It was just having enough savvy to cut off Guida's most obvious route to victory. You don't see that kind of performance out of Joaquim Silva most of the time up until now.
It was very intelligent performance.
Very intelligent. It's nice to know that after a surprising number of UFC fights himself, I mean, that was his 10th UFC fight. I mean, he's not that much younger than Guida. He's learning a few new tricks himself. It's way too long a road to even raise the question of whether he's a future contender, but if he can keep winning 2, losing 1, he could stick around for a while longer, maybe even get to that Clay Guida age. Who knows?
Yeah, I'll say this real quick. It's super impressive for him to be, he's not completely shot to be, have as many fights he had to be fighting at this level. But I also think it's time to like hang it up. Like, I don't want to see that moment when he's losing 5 in a row and he's getting starched. He still can show, I think, give it one more fight. You put it on the screen, UFC 300. It had to be against Jim Miller because I know Jim Miller's actually booked, which is kind of crazy. But knowing him, he'll probably turn around and still fight in the UFC 300. But give Guida a match, UFC 300, put it on like prelims, and make it his retirement fight. Like, have him announce it ahead of time.
Guida versus Miller 2 at UFC 300. Like, both men retire.
Yeah, kind of like, I think about like Joe was on, they knew it was his retirement fight, stuff like that, or these guys who had their final walk. Yeah, do that. Before, and we're gonna have to kind of stop breezing through some of these. Before that, Puna Soriano took on Dustin Stolfitz. Stolfitz won by second round sub. This was the worst call I had. Someone said my next 2 fights were bad calls.
Stolfitz looked incredible.
I don't know if Stolfitz looked incredible or Soriano looked terrible.
Yes,
a little bit of both. Michael Bisping. I thought Michael Bisping was really good on commentating tonight. He was pointing out that Soriano just kept looking for the same left hand over and over, and yeah, he was landing it, but then Stolfitz adjusted, was getting out of the way, and Soriano did nothing. And I was shocked at how not that he was taking Soriano out, but how much of an advantage he had on the ground. Like, it was significant. And then obviously he subbed him, and I don't want to say this. I don't know if he gritted. I don't know if Soriano like toughed it out. Like, I don't know if when he got his back taken and the guy's crushing his chin a little bit, suddenly went from his chin to his throat pretty easily.
Yeah. I mean, we're about to talk about 2 fights in a row that ended in kind of similar situation, but slightly differently. I agree.
Yeah, absolutely. No, don't talk to me about D3 wrestling. Yes, good job.
Yeah, I agree that Soriano looked bad tonight. It's kind of all of his worst habits on display, but it's still, I don't want to take too much credit away, because if you'd asked me before the fight, I would have said that even bad Soriano doesn't leave anything that Stoltzfus can take advantage of.
That's what I thought too, but apparently that's not the case. Yeah, wrestling D3 or whatever it's not a big deal. Like, I know JV wrestlers who wrestled for Rhode Island College. Like they're not on scholarship. You walk in the door and say, "Hey, you guys get a wrestling team? Hey,
Dude,
I wrestle."
D1 schools are axing their wrestling programs. Like, if you're watching the show, you can wrestle for a D3 school right now. Like,
Yeah.
you'll at least get a tryout. Like,
Yeah, well, I mean, you'll make the. Yeah, there's no like. It's like it's
yeah,
like a,
it's
honestly,
club.
yeah. D3 is like wrestling for a high school team. No, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of good D3 wrestlers. So I'm gonna be
Sure.
the best are good. Not everybody's good.
Yeah.
D1,
The best are good, but the best go like 31-0 on the season because most of the others are not good.
Yeah, D1, everybody's good. You don't make the team. You don't just walk on campus and say, "Hey, I left to wrestle for Penn State." No, that's not happening. Before that, Misha Tate took on Julia Avila. And talking about Penn State, Misha Tate looked like Bo Nickel out there
Ding,
because
ding, ding. Yes.
she dominated every second of the fight. She had the perfect, not just had the perfect game plan, because I mean that's been Misha Tate's game plan for 18 years now, but it was also the perfect scenario for her because I actually felt like Avila gave her the fight she wanted. So not just like I want to do this, but Avila put herself in position. What I mean by that, she just pressed her right back to the cage. She never Avila never circled, just backed straight up. And
yep, I dead wrong on this one, and part of it's down to that strategic blunder on Julia Avila's part that you pointed out, and she did over and over and over again. But kind of like I said about Soriano versus Stoltzfus, I thought even a bad version of Avila, or a version that just didn't look the same after a year off for childbirth, was going to be rough sledding for Tate, just because of her size and strength. But no, like Tate's wrestling looked incredible because, yeah, it looked like a vintage performance because Avila just gave her not just a Misha Tate fight, but almost like a Misha Tate like training session.
yeah, the fact that she could get to the clinch so quickly and onto her hips, it felt like when you're in a wrestling room and you do situational wrestlings, like you're like, you go at it for a minute and one fighter, one wrestler's in a position like, all right, put a half in, all right, wrestle. Like I felt like she was like putting in that position, and now wrestle. I picked Avila, not that I was high on Avila. I just picked her because I thought Misha Tate was shot. She clearly is not shot. I'm not saying she's going to make a run or anything like that, but that division's wide open. I mean, the title shot right now is, Raquel Pennington versus Mara Bueno Silva. Now, I don't think she beats either one of those people, but like she's closer to a title shot than Kelvin Gastelum is, and like one more win in that division based on her name. I mean, who's more marketable in the division right now than Misha Tate?
I don't know. They cut to Holly Holm cage side.
Like, well, that's the kind of realm. It's like her and Holm that have any like casual fans will know.
Yeah, it's in the same situation that light heavyweight was a few years back, where the old guard is aging out and the division is just getting thin in the top 15, and there didn't seem to be anybody rising to take their place.
It feels like a PFL division right now. But there's some talent, but you're not excited.
There's some talent, but there's only 2 or 3 like really good fighters, and when they fight each other, it's horribly boring.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned Holly Holm because I put Misha Tate versus Holly Holm Fight Night main event.
That's why I mentioned why she was cage side.
You set me up. Yeah. I mean, is there really any other fight to do? I mean, I guess you could fight some other girl, but why not just her and Holly Holm fight each other?
Yeah, I mean, if Tate's just in it for a couple more paychecks, she did exactly what she needed to do tonight. She either had to have a really exciting fight or a really dominant performance, because otherwise the UFC was going to start deciding that her former champ purses weren't worth the squeeze. You know,
Yeah.
like if the UFC can look at someone like Derek Brunson and say, "Oh man, how many Contender Series people could we sign for what you make?" You know, they're going to do it to someone like Tate as well. So yeah, she did what she needed to do.
Yeah, in fairness, to Misha Tate compared to Derek Brunson, Misha Tate does have something that Derek Brunson doesn't have that fans enjoy watching. I'll let you. I mean,
Yeah,
a personality.
yeah.
I,
I
I
mean,
don't. I don't. I don't think it's a personality. I think it's maybe something else. But
even at 37, she's an extremely attractive woman. Yeah,
um, yeah, I think that's. I mean, I think they deserve a main event too. I don't think it'd be a fun fight to watch, but just to, you have a rematch of that magnitude, former, title matchup that was going one fighter's way to the other way. That's what you got to do. We're probably going to breeze through these next two fights because what is there really to say? But Cody Brundage taking on Zach Reese. Zach Reese, hometown guy, almost had back-to-back fights where he was put on his back and pulls off an armbar like he did on the Contender Series to get the contract. But Cody Brundage had to learn something from Drakkar Klose, who fought one fight before. And you mentioned earlier, dribbled a basketball. He dribbled Zach Reese on his head as he lifted him up and slammed him, and he was out.
that's pretty much it. Brutal loss for Reese. His first professional loss, obviously. A fantastic and much needed win for Brundage. Obviously, Brundage badly in need of a win here, and he gets an uncontroversial one. Like by the time this happened, I'm sure Rose Namajunas like probably had a nosebleed wherever she is. Like she just felt a great disturbance in the force. But I don't like if Cody Brundage and Zach Reese fought 10 times, I don't know who would win more times or how, but I know it would probably only look like that once. That's the thing about slam knockouts. You know, you knew it about Andrade and Namajunas. Same for Joe Solecki and Drakkar Klose. I still am cautiously optimistic about Reese as a prospect. He has some holes in his game, but he has some unteachable physical tools, and great instincts for grappling. Yeah, again, it's 185, wide open division, but he's definitely got something to take back to the drawing board here because he just got knocked cold by a guy that was probably fighting for his job tonight.
Yeah, Cody. Well, he might not. He's on a winning streak now. Cody Brown. He's at 2 wins in a row in the UFC.
Yep, and as long as they keep being as kind of strange as they are, he'll be appointment viewing. Like I'm pumped for the next Cody Brundage fight.
The crazy shit happens a lot in his fights. He said that Mark Montoya was the only person to believe him. That's not true, man. I picked you too, man. I pulled this big upset. Cody Brundage. Let's go.
And I feel like that's leaving out Amanda Bobby Brundage, who presumably believes in him as well.
No, she might not. She might. Yeah.
She might. I love you, baby, but this guy's gonna armbar you. Like I don't know what is.
One of the most anticipating fights, for the prelims was Drakkar Klose taking on Joe Solecki, and we just saw the same fight twice. A little different as Solecki came out, closed the distance, took down Drakkar Klose, did what Joe Solecki wants to do, got a back take, but no, he got to take that. He didn't get his back, which forced Drakkar Klose to kind of lay back. Drakkar Klose scrum again, and Solecki like rushed to get his back and lost position, but then quickly goes right to an armbar. And if you thought Brunge's slam was good, I think Drakkar Klose's one was even better. I mean, because I think he got him up even higher.
Oh, it was caveman shit. It's like he did almost the whole thing with just the one arm. It didn't even look like he was having to strain that hard. It looked like me playing with a child one of my children in like one of those like inflatable trampoline parks that we talked about a few weeks ago.
You ever see those videos where like a wild like animal, like a rodent or something, like attacks a person, like I don't know, like a raccoon or a possum or something, and like a person's like slinging their arm trying to shake it off. That's what it looked like. He picked up and then they pick up like a raccoon and they slam their head on the ground. Like that's what it looked like.
Okay. Great question from Mel. Are these slams better than Andrade's slam?
No.
It depends on what you're looking for. No. Because the stakes, obviously not. These are a couple of prelims, whereas that was a title fight, and it was a title fight where Namajunas had been winning and had been like fighting off Andrade's takedown attempts successfully with like the same like figure four multiple times. If you just want to talk about the cleanliness of the technique, dude, the close slam of Joe Selecki,
it's good.
Yeah. Whereas Andrade, it just looked like her kind of lifting her up and spiking her on her head. Like there was none of the amplitude. But whereas this, dude, I mean, the close versus Selecki thing, it looked like a pro wrestling spot almost. Just conk. I mean, it's not Rampage versus Arona, but it's on that. But it's on that. Like it's not. But it's on that level of this doesn't look like it was done on a non-cooperating person in a real fight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It looked like how I imagine if like a midget fought like Hulk Hogan. Like Hulk Hogan would just slam him or freaking Brock Lesnar. Yeah, I saw people saying greatest slam ever. No, it's not. Quentin Jackson, Hikaru Arona is the greatest slam. If Kevin Randleman knocked out Fedor Emelianenko, that might have been number one, but he didn't go out and he somehow survived and lands a submission 15 seconds later. Like gets slammed into a submission because he's Fedor Emelianenko and Kevin Randleman is Kevin Randleman. So close is not close though, man. 6-1 in his last 7.
6-1 in his last 7, 8-2 in the UFC overall. As quietly as you can do that in the UFC lightweight division, he's done it quietly.
Yeah, the problem is like 8 wins and 8-2. He's gonna have to like triple that to make it a title shot because that's. I mean, think about Tony Ferguson's run.
Yeah. Well, and again, it's lightweight. It's fast-moving traffic. If Close keeps fighting 3 times every 2 years, it will literally never be enough.
Yeah, I don't even think he gets a ranked opponent next. Like
he does if I have my way.
Oh, what are you doing?
I'm giving him Drew Dober.
Oh, how can he fight Drew Dober? Dober's fighting Jalen Turner. I went with
so we've got to do like a like a battle royale type thing. Like, make Close run the gauntlet or something.
Or it's one of those ones where they're fighting each other and then like the other guy comes running out. Like, oh my god, it's Jakar Close. You know.
Mr. Close's music.
I went with Mateusz Rebecki. I'm sorry if I'm
Mateusz Rebecki. Yeah,
Mateusz Rebecki. Just 2 guys with good records, but yeah, unfortunately, Jakar Close. I mean, think about this: if you were 8-2 in the UFC or 6-1 in middleweight, light heavyweight, you've already fought for the title.
Yeah.
Hell, that women's featherweight, you're the greatest of all time. You know.
I mean, yeah, you're Chris Cyborg.
Yeah, that's right. Before that, again, I apologize if I butcher the first name. Ihor Pretoria took on Hadafo Bellato. Bellato winning by second round TKO. Damn, this fight was fun as hell.
That was a round of the year candidate. I mean,
there's some things I learned in this fight, and one thing I think we said this heading in, and this is one where we both picked Bellato, but we both kind of said the same, like, dude, should not be a negative 500 favorite against anybody.
No.
The dude's freaking tough. He could take a beating, but I don't feel, even though he won, I don't feel good about him. I feel worse, actually.
Yeah, it's... I completely agree. Like, as great as a comeback as it was, as fun of a round as... honestly, both rounds were wild and fun. Just a good fighter doesn't have those kind of rounds against Ihor Potieria. Like, if either of these guys was good, if either of these guys was a future top 10 fighter, this would have been a one-sided fight.
Yeah, Bellato came in with like a Carlos Ulberg type hype. Ulberg would have starched them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, or would it? Yeah. So, I mean, Pretoria was faster than him. He had more output. He hurt him. And Bellato, he's big and he's freaking tough. And he's raw and he's not the most technical. I also just think he lacks athleticism.
Agreed.
Which athleticism matters more in the bigger weight classes.
Yeah, he's a poor man, like a very poor man's Volkan Oezdemir. Like big, strong, tough, decent power, not athletic.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And Vittorio, what happened with him, and this is like the great mystery. I don't think it's ever really been solved. Is trying to find that balance where you hurt a guy and you try to finish him, but also control yourself that you don't. If you can't finish him, you're not toast. And I don't know what the pace is. I
Well,
don't think it's been solved yet.
well, it's definitely not been solved at light heavyweight, which is consistently the lowest fight IQ division in the UFC. Like, it's not the lowest skill division. It's not the least
No,
athletic. Heavyweight
no.
is both, but this is a division where people like Nikita Krylov and Alonzo Menafield and even Ion Kudalaba can just kind of hang around and get up into the rankings. Like where Johnny Walker was close to a title shot. This is the lowest fight IQ division in the UFC.
He's still close to the title shot.
Yeah.
Maybe one more win, he's fighting for the title. Yeah. Talking about two guys who will never fight for a title shot. Wellington Turman took on Jared Gordon. Jared Gordon won by second round sub. To me, this was just a battle of bad defenses.
Jared Gooden, although Jared Gordon might have beaten Turman as
Gooden,
well.
I'm sorry. Gooden. I apologize. Jared Gooden. Not, it's late, guys. It's almost midnight. Jared Gooden won by that actually sets up something later.
Dude, you were right and I was wrong. Because on the preview,
I picked Turman to win.
Oh no, we both picked Turman to win, but the difference is in the nuance. Because on the preview, I said neither of these guys is good right now, but one has upside. He's younger. He's at one of the hottest camps in the sport right now, and you just kind of went, neither of these guys is that good. And at the end of the first round, I was like, no, see, Turman's really improving, and
he looked good.
He did.
He really did.
I was right, and then I was wrong. Like Gooden, that was a brutal finish, man. Like just punished. Like Turman went from looking fine to looking like he'd been run over by a car in like 40 seconds. Like he's bleeding from behind the ear, and man, nasty stuff.
The problem with Turman is he doesn't move his head. You got two guys, like I said. I said the battle of bad defenses. You have Turman who has his head high in the air, it doesn't move his head. Then you got Gooden who has his head high in the air, doesn't move his head, and keeps his hands low. Like, what I will say, I mean, the action was fun. So, Gooden, what I like about him winning is, he did it. He was hurt. He was badly hurt, and he had a, shortly after his comeback. You only get that in combat sports. You don't get comebacks like that in stick and ball sports. So I like that a lot. That's one thing I love about this sport. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Yeah, you don't get the 30-point 3-point shots. You know what I mean? Like, you don't just land one shot and all of a sudden you're back in the game. And before that, Veronica Hardy versus Jamie Lynn Horth. Veronica Hardy won a split decision. Hardy has looked really good in her 2 fights back since a long stint. Moving quickly, good speed, but also her power is underrated. I mean, she hurt Horth a couple times.
Yep.
Which, I don't think I thought of Hardy as a power hitter, but I put it in my notes. It's something I want to mention moving forward.
It's power that it definitely comes from her, again, growing into her late 20s. Her physical build is different than it was in her first UFC run, and then just proper technique. She hurt Horth because she tends to have her feet under her when she swings. Horth looked slow, and I knew that Hardy would have the speed advantage, but I figured this would look like Hardy trying to kind of thread the needle, like stay somewhat on the outside against a taller and longer fighter, but still be able to land, while Horth kind of lumbered after like Frankenstein. But not only did Horth look slower, but Hardy did not get bullied around in the times when they clinched or, in any of the scrambles. Like Hardy looked great. And while the Juliana Miller win so far has not aged well, I still think Horth is better than I thought she was before she got to the UFC. This might turn into a better win than it looks like.
Yeah, it might be. It said it was a split decision. To me, that was crazy. I thought Veronica Hardy clearly had the first 2 rounds in the bag.
I completely agree. And like I said earlier on the show, when I heard it was a split decision, I was just like, please don't let it be any of the local judges.
It was Jacob Montalvo,
who is, I mean, it's not a Houston guy. So
Okay, there you go. So there you go. We've done all 12 fights. Let's get to the fun stuff. Awards. I'm gonna guess they just gave a shitload of people bonuses.
well, I will tell you.
If not, if you want us to guess, we can guess. But I'm assuming it's one of those.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah, that's all 8 finishers got bonuses, and then
all right,
there was
good.
and then Rodolfo, or no, sorry, all the finishers except for Rodolfo Bellato got a bonus, but he and Pateria got fight of the night. So
Okay, so
$500,000 in bonus money, 10 bonuses. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm glad the UFC. I mean, because there was no way you could have picked a winner tonight. I mean, it was. I mean, I think of. I mean, obviously Tsarukyan in the main event. The 2 slams. Jalen Turner coming in on short notice. I mean, there's 4 right there. How do you pick 2 out of those? Misha Tate's performance. Dominating. Sean Brady, so then you had the wild fights with like Bellato and stuff. So, yeah, definitely glad they did that. How about let's do Dude Seriously?
Okay.
I have 2.
I have one other than the reffing snafu that we already talked about.
All right, go ahead.
All right, so Deiveson Figueiredo makes a successful bantamweight debut, taking a well-deserved unanimous decision over Rob Font. Immediately thrusts himself either into the big title picture or the small title picture, depending on how you feel personally about it, but at least shows he belongs. And to celebrate afterwards, I see him in the cage, like basically climbing up a much larger human being, like a jungle gym. And all I can see from the back is that, okay, it looks like a black guy and he's like a full foot taller than Deiveson Figueiredo. Like, is that Greg Jones? Did he like go down to Killcliff or something? And it turns out it's just a random security guy from the cage.
That's awesome.
He just totally climbed up on one of the dudes that at the T-Mobile arena would be like one of the red blazers, Yeah, he's just totally climbed up on one of the ushers. Like I need more joyous Deiveson Figueiredo. Like that's his Jose great. Aldo jumping into the crowd in Rio moment. He's not the king of Rio, but he's I don't want to say king of the cage because that's a whole different thing. But
imagine you're this guy, you some guy you work for the arena. Imagine you don't know jack shit about MMA. You're like, it's Saturday night. Yeah, I'm on the schedule. What's going on? Oh, it's MMA fights. Oh, those guys, that crowd will be ready. But you're like, yeah, but it's better than that freaking band that plays. And you got to pick up drunk girls off the floor and shit. And someone puked in the bathroom. You're like, yeah, all right. Well, what's the worst thing that can happen? Then this is sweaty 135 Brazilian guy on you.
and he probably smeared red hair dye all over the side of your face or something because Figueiredo apparently hasn't made enough money to find decent hair dye. So yeah.
He's got like Vaseline on him and freaking sweat. And, yeah. A little bit of blood.
Yeah.
Oh, God, I love it. What a great sport.
MMA, like never change.
I was thinking
like that part.
I was thinking like when Joe Rogan is doing the broadcast and he's got like $1,000 share because it's freaking Joe Rogan, and then some sweaty person hugs him or something like that.
See, I don't feel bad for Rogan because you know what, Rogan, if you have $1,000 shirt, get one in your size. Like no matter what he's wearing, it's always like the buttons are just screaming for mercy. Like his shirt should like you look at the label on the back and it says "Contents under pressure."
Yeah, my daughter for like Father's Day, not my middle daughter, she bought me a shirt because I'm a dad, so I'm always constantly fixing things in the house and stuff. And she bought me like a Father's Day shirt, and it said something like, "I know things and I fix things. That's what I do," or some shit like that.
Okay, so a Game of Thrones dad joke. All right.
So she bought me probably like 2 sizes too small. I put it on and it's like freaking Joe Rogan. It's just like skin tight. It's either that or she's like trying to tell me to get my fat ass down and weight or something. Like I can't even like wear it around the house. That's how tight it is.
Dude, I'm 50. My mom still gets me clothes for my birthday, and she still gets me clothes in the size she thinks I should be. So I feel you, dude. It's the worst kind of Asian mom pressure. She
Nice.
doesn't care about my grades. She doesn't care about my job. She's just like,
But
oh,
she's telling
Ben.
you eat salad.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's great. um. See, no, any more dude seriously?
That was the only one I had.
All right. I have two. um, Jared Gordon won his UFC fight. Gooden, sorry, Jared Gooden. I keep calling Jared Gordon. Jared Gooden won his fight tonight, and he claims, he goes, I want to thank my team for making me a star, for always believing me and making me a star.
I'm sorry, who said that?
Jared Gooden said for believing him and making him a star. And I'm like, dude, seriously, I've been calling you Jared Gordon all night, and this is what I do, man. I'm the hardcore of hardcores. Dude, you're not a star.
Apparently, Keith missed the part where they're like backstage in the green room and they're making those like ninja throwing stars out of paper. That's all he meant. They made him a star. Like I'm kidding.
Maybe it was like like an ornament, like like a star for the Christmas tree or something like that.
There you go. There you go. Just getting them into the the spirit of the season.
And my other dude, seriously, I don't know who was on assignment for UFC broadcast for counting takedowns, who was officially scoring takedowns. But it was halfway through, like the second round, and Clay Guida probably took down Joaquin Silva about 4 times, and then the stat popped up and it said Silva was just taken down, and the stat pops up and goes Silva's 6 for 6 on takedown defense. I'm like, dude, seriously, what? he's been taken on like 4 times already.
Yeah.
So
did they think that? Did they mean to say that Guida was 6 for 6 on takedowns? But that wouldn't be true either because he wasn't 100%.
No, I don't know.
So just a terrible stat.
I know if someone's gonna at me and be like, "Dude, they count takedowns in MMA differently. You got to take them down. You got to control them." Like, yeah, that's what they do in wrestling anyway. It's just I'm sorry that you guys never wrestled and don't know what a takedown is. All right, let's. So don't come at me. Definitely don't come at me. Don't be a nerd and come at me with like the rule book. Like, yeah, whatever. So, all right. Let's get to the. You want to do the Cutlass or you want to do the Bulls and Bears?
Oh, I'm fine with doing the cut list.
I have 3 for the cut list.
I have 3 as well.
All right. So the cut list, it's pretty self-explanatory. If both me and Ben agree on the same person and have him on a cut list, we give the UFC permission to release that person, and so they can bring in new talent. You want me to throw my names out there?
Go for it.
I have my first guy, Wellington Turman. He's lost three in a row.
3 in a row and 2 since dropping down to 170. So that clearly has not fixed things, even against Jared Gooden, who himself would have been on the cut list if he'd lost. So yeah.
Well, in fairness, he was fighting the Star tonight. So, yeah, the Stars usually fight second on the card. Puna Soriano, huge favorite tonight. He's lost 4 out of 5.
He has, and he has. I forget who it was that pointed it out. Probably Bob Timpson, because he's been like raging tonight. Pointed out that he seems to be regressing skills wise as he does. So that's a bad look if you keep losing and you're looking worse as you go. So.
All right, and my last one, even though his fight was fun as hell, Iora Pretoria, he's lost 3 out of 4, back-to-back back-to-back knockout loss. Oh, stoppage losses. It was knockout. Sorry, back-to-back knockout losses. I'm getting rid of Pretoria.
Pretoria was on my list. Soriano actually wasn't, but I'm totally fine with him going.
Okay,
gonna be controversial considering we actually made him after talking about his fight, but I would not be mad if the UFC said bye to Kelvin Gastelum.
Yeah. After he loses at UFC 300.
Okay, yeah, bring him.
The worst thing is the guy probably worked so hard to make weight and they got smoked anyways.
Yeah, that's concerning because at 185 again he was only losing to good people.
Yeah. Yep. And he's still in fantasy. He's still losing to good people. Like, he hasn't lost to a bum yet.
Yeah, but I'm just
he's
saying
winning.
that it's not like at 170 it looks like his problems are magically going to be solved.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's a reason why you left the division a while ago. Let's get to the Bulls and the Bears. The Bulls and the Bears are a stock market reference. You want to be on the Bulls list. You don't want to be in the Bears list. We do hockey stars of the night style 3, 2, 1. Let's go Bulls first. Okay. Because I accidentally clicked on the button to pull Bulls up on the screen. You mind if I go first?
Please do.
All right. I'm going to go Sean Brady as my number 3. I mean, good Lord, the guy looked good tonight. You know, we're ranking him up there as in all the prospects, and you know, wasn't that long ago he was my least on the prospect list. Now he's much higher. You had him, I think you had him what, second or third?
Yeah, I had him third. So
yeah, I think I had him third or fourth. So, yeah, definitely his stock is risen high. My number 2 is slams. Slams are up. Someone posted this in a chat I'm in. They showed all the knockout slams in the UFC per year, and like every year, I think the highest knockouts per slam was 2 for a year. We had two tonight and back-to-back fights, so slams are on the rise.
If we weren't already 2 hours into this show, I would see how many of the 14 we can name, because I bet we could get them all. But yeah, we're way too late.
There's 14 slam knockouts in history.
In UFC history.
Fuck it, let's try it. As a team.
Dude, I'm too tired, man. Like, I'm pretty sure.
I'll go Tito Ortiz. I'll give you that one. Tito Ortiz, Evan Tanner. There's one.
Ortiz on Tanner. I mean, Hughes on Newton. Yeah, they're going to count that as one of them.
Frank Shamrock.
Igor Zinoviev.
Yeah.
Dude, it's not that he knocked him out; it's he broke his collarbone. So the dude's just screaming. Like, give me unconscious over screaming, please. Like,
yeah, Andrade. There's 4. All right, there's 4 right there.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if they count. What's his name? Gray Maynard knocking himself out on Tough.
Ooh.
Like against Rob Emerson.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah, Matt Lindland on himself. Matt Lindland's only knockout ever.
Yeah. Matt Lindland versus Nico Vitali.
Yeah.
And my number 1, it's got to be Arman Tsarukyan. I mean, to do what he did to Beneil, Dariush, 27 years old. I mean, not many people wanted to fight him before. That was the big theme. I think that's going to be even worse now. So, do you have anybody else?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with all yours, so I'm not going to come up with 3 whole new ones, but I will add in Veronica Hardy. Just stardom is there for the taking if she keeps winning, and she's in a division where she's not going to have to win that many more. She's looked great against questionable opposition. She's going to get good opposition next time out. She's effectively MMA royalty, just, being married to an analyst and former contender. And she herself, if she wasn't married, could have as big an OnlyFans as she wanted. And Davison Figueiredo, this was a must-win situation for him. If he has any title aspirations at bantamweight, he did it. No question about it. Did exactly what he needed to do.
Yeah, let's go to the Bears. These people who had a bad night. You do not want to be on this list. Ben, I'll let you kick it off.
Okay. Slam victims? No, obviously, most of the people that lost tonight lost in spectacular fashion, but even among those, some people stood out. Julia Avila looked just shockingly hapless in getting run over by Miesha Tate. Puna Soriano, as we already discussed, I mean, he lost to somebody that was probably fighting for his job, and he's gone from the guy that had Brendan Allen on the ropes a couple of years ago to a guy that's just, I mean, I half joked about him being a throwback sloppy Hawaiian brawler on the preview while highlighting the ways he's not that. But he's kind of regressing into a one-weapon front-running guy, and it's not pretty.
Yeah, good point.
And Bobby Green, the whole the whole story of Bobby Green's week hinged on this, because if he destroys Turner, or even if he survives that first round and goes on to pull ahead of Turner, who's dehydrated and compromised because of the weight cut, then he gets to sit on the mic at the post-fight presser, just probably get into a shoving match with Tsarukyan, say all the shit he wants to, and it's just another check the box. Bobby Green continues his unlikely star rise. But here, this is the kind of loss where he loses to a short notice opponent, and he's in danger of losing that Masvidal, Cowboy Cerrone, here's a guy that we can throw in as a fight night headliner anytime we need to type thing. Like, if this happens too many more times, he loses that cachet, and that's a shame, because that cachet is kind of how he secures his retirement. Like, in terms of like having money in the bank.
Yeah, absolutely. Good points.
I think that's all of them. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll go with, I agree with everybody else. So I'll try to mix them up a little bit. I'm gonna go. I mean, Beneil Dariush. I mean, it's 2 losses in a row, getting starched. I love Dev's fighters with gray hair throwing Dariush in the video. That was pretty good. Number 2, to add on the Bobby Green, I'm gonna go boxers, the ones who get always promoted as the boxing. Bobby Green and Rob Font are both people known for their boxing, and both had very bad nights. With Bobby Green getting knocked out, Rob Font almost being knocked out in the 3rd round there, and losing. And my number 1, they said this a couple times in the broadcast, so I'm kind of jumping off of them. How about the BJJ coaches who say, do not slam your way out of an armbar? Those people's stock went on tonight, because we saw 2 armbars and people just slamming dudes. Good night.
I mean, on some level, slamming your way out of a locked-in submission is the women's flyweight headlock throw of sub-defense, where the few times it works just encourages people to try it a million more times. But no, tonight you were dead right. Yeah.
Yeah. And for you guys, if you go in next week, or maybe the beginning of next year in January, I want to New Year's resolution, lose some weight or learn some jiu-jitsu. Don't slam people in jiu-jitsu. Don't guys go for an armbar. Don't slam anybody. Let's get to the grade. I mean, I kind of have an idea where we're going with this. I'll go A-. No, I'm gonna go A. I think it's like card of the year candidate. This card was freaking fantastic.
Agree. I at least Sherdog's card of the year, I think all 5 years since I've been with the site, has been a UFC pay-per-view card, just because it's usually the best pay-per-view card, just because the stakes, kind of like the Heisman always goes to the best quarterback, occasionally the best receiver or running back from a top team. It's not actually the best player. It's that kind of thing. But for entertainment value, we saw some wild shit we've never seen before. We had 0 bad fights tonight.
Yeah, who was the most boring fight? Opener? I don't know.
Or Figueiredo versus Font, just because it became pretty obvious what was going to happen the whole time. But it's not like it was bad.
I wasn't bored.
Yeah. It's like, seriously. Like Hardy versus Horth, maybe? Just because. Yeah.
And it's one of the best fight nights I've seen in a really long time. Yeah, I think Hardy and Horth, which was an okay fight, just okay, was the worst fight of the night.
Yeah, free card of the year for sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Always the hardest question: who is your listener of the night?
Man,
chat was jumping today.
Chat was super jumping. Like Bob Simpson came out on fire as usual,
trolling all night.
Well, there's always the fine line where I can't tell where he's trolling and where he actually just disagrees vehemently with us. And understand, Bob, I'm with you either way. Like I'm here for it.
Go for it.
As long as you're respectful of the other people in the chat. I mean, I don't care if you call us assholes. But I'm gonna have him step aside in favor of Mel. I do not know whether Mel is a man, a woman, or a bot, but if they are a bot, they're the wittiest bot ever. Some excellent takes from Mel tonight. So Mel's my listener of the night. And I called Boss a filthy casual, but obviously that's not true. He is the name over the doorway of the listener of the night archive. So yeah.
Yeah, we had a lot of really good. I mean, a lot of the usuals as always. I have a hard time getting them. Anthem Tardif, I think I just gave it to him last time they were here or 2 times ago, so I'm not going to give him listener of the night. I'm going to go with there's a lot of good ones, but I'm going to go with Davis Oswald. I thought Davis was good insight, was here most of the night, or had been here the whole night. I'll go with Davis Oswald as our listener tonight. So there you guys have it. We'll be back. Preview show UFC. I don't even know what it's called, but it's Song versus Gutierrez,
and they're back at the Apex, so it's like UFC Vegas 83 or something. But yeah, Song versus Gutierrez.
They're at the Apex. I thought it was the card where they're like it's like 3 a.m, some crazy shit like that.
Well, it's at the Apex. It may be at 3 a.m. just because Song's fans are all in China.
Okay. It's not in China.
Or no, the card is not in China. So I guess people, in Sacramento are going to have to get up real early to see their boy. But I think it's only like a 10-fight card as well. So that'll be great.
So there you guys have it. Thank you guys so much for listening. We'll check you guys out next time.